Canadian Owen Hart, known as the Blue Blazer, was killed performing a pre-match stunt.
In May of 1999, veteran wrestler Owen Hart died on live television in a shocking accident that stunned the wrestling world. Owen Hart was born to be a star, raised in Calgary, Alberta, by parents Stu and Helen. The boisterous Hart clan was famous in wrestling circles, with patriarch Stu running the prominent Stampede Wrestling promotion. Owen was the youngest of 12 children, all of whom were immersed in the wild world of pro wrestling from an early age. Though initially hesitant to enter the family business, Owen's natural talent led him to begin training in his father's infamous dungeon basement. There, he honed his amateur wrestling skills into polished pro wrestling technique. Owen's talent was undeniable, and he quickly rose to prominence in the local Canadian scene. His skill and charisma earned him Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Rookie of the Year award in 1987 at just 22 years old. Though humble and unassuming out of the ring, once he stepped between the ropes, Owen transformed into a gifted performer who could elicit any crowd reaction he desired. In 1988, Owen signed with the World Wrestling Federation, debuting as the masked superhero character, the Blue Blazer. His athletic prowess and aerial moves made him an instant fan favorite. However, backstage politics prevented his push to the next level. Frustrated, Owen left the WWF in 1989 to tour the globe, gaining even more experience and confidence. When he returned in 1991, Owen refused to languish in the undercard again. He spent years struggling to break out from the shadow of his more famous older brother Bret, a former WWF champion. Owen's big break came in 1993 when he was booked in a rivalry with Bret. During a Survivor Series elimination match, Owen was accidentally eliminated by Bret, causing Owen to snap. He kicked Bret's leg out from under him, instantly transforming himself into a bitter, jealous heel. Owen and Bret committed fully to the Family Feud storyline. At WrestleMania 10, Owen shocked the world by defeating his legendary brother cleanly. The match announced Owen's arrival as a top talent in his own right. Their headline feud, built on a foundation of real-life sibling dynamics, became one of the greatest wrestling storylines ever. Over the next several years, Owen blossomed into one of the top villains in the company. He joined uber-heel factions like Camp Cornette, relishing the opportunity to showcase his talents on the big stage. His trademark pink and black ring attire, petulant scowl, and comedic barbs made him an endlessly entertaining rogue. In the ring, Owen displayed an arsenal of innovative moves and counterholds that underscored his technical brilliance. His matches with brother Bret were master classes in psychology, pacing, and drama. Though a consummate heel on screen, backstage, Owen was beloved for his kindness, humor, and devotion to family. While some wrestlers partied hard on the road, Owen was known for his frugality, often foregoing rental cars and relying on fans for rides. He and wife Martha, high school sweethearts, focused their time and energy on raising their young son and daughter. Owen was also legendary for over-the-top pranks he pulled on coworkers, keeping morale high during the grueling travel schedule. By 1999, the wrestling business was changing. The outlandish characters and cartoony gimmicks of the 80s boom era were falling out of fashion. Owen himself was growing disenchanted with the WWF's crass, sex-fueled direction called the Attitude Era. He had turned down an infamous storyline that would have seen him cheating on his wife with female valet Deborah. At just 34, Owen was already thinking about retirement. In a bid to humiliate Owen, WWF management brought back his old Blue Blazer persona, portraying it as an embarrassing relic. But Owen leaned into the goofy gimmick, earning laughs with Blazer's self-righteous monologues. The night of his tragic accident was supposed to be another comedic caper, with Owen performing a botched superhero entrance. It was a stunt Owen had reluctantly executed before without incident, but this time, fate intervened with catastrophic results. It was May 23, 1999. Owen Hart was slated to play his hilarious superhero persona, the Blue Blazer, that night at the Over the Edge pay-per-view event being held at Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. Earlier in the day, Hart had reluctantly agreed to descend from the rafters of the arena into the ring as part of an elaborate entrance routine. Though nervous, he had performed similar stunts before without problems. The plan called for Hart to be lowered from a height of approximately 80 feet via a quick-release harness attached to a grapple line. Once positioned above the ring, Hart would detach from the line and fall approximately 24 feet onto the mat below. The goal was to create a dramatic superhero-style entrance befitting the Blue Blazer character. Upon landing, Hart was supposed to play up an injury before springing to his feet, unhurt and ready to wrestle. Unbeknownst to Hart, the equipment used that night was different than what he had practiced with earlier. The quick-release mechanism required very little pressure, estimated at just 6 to 8 pounds to detach. Furthermore, the harness was designed to restrict breathing while hanging vertically, as Hart would be positioned during his descent. Around 6:15 p.m., with the pay-per-view event underway, Hart stepped off the platform to begin his dramatic ring entrance. Dangling high in the rafters, he awaited his cue. But as he hung vertical and motionless, the restrictive harness began to impact his breathing. Instinctively, Hart made a subtle shifting movement to relieve the pressure. That subtle motion triggered the quick-release mechanism. In an instant, Hart was disconnected from the line and plunged 78 feet towards the ring, far below. He desperately clutched at the harness and rigging, trying in vain to stop his fatal freefall. The crowd of over 15,000 watched in stunned horror as Hart's flailing body accelerated rapidly. His head smashed viciously into the corner ring post before he landed headfirst on the top rope, bending him grotesquely backwards. Hart's limp body bounced lifelessly off the ropes and collapsed to the mat. The boisterous crowd went dead silent in horror and confusion. Little did they know, they had just witnessed the tragic final moments of one of wrestling's brightest stars. The exact cause of death was later determined to be internal bleeding from blunt force trauma, which resulted in a severed aorta. In their haste to get Hart medical aid, the quick-release rigging high above the ring was left untouched. Subsequent investigation determined it took just 6 to 8 pounds of pressure to trigger the release that sent Hart plunging to his death. The autopsy also revealed the tremendous physical trauma inflicted by the fall. Hart suffered a fractured skull, broken neck, shattered ribcage, and dislocated arm, elbow, and knee. The impact was so violent it even ripped some of his hair and skin from his head. These gruesome details painted a horrific picture of Hart's final conscious moments. In an instant, the wrestling world lost one of its brightest lights, and a family lost a loving husband and father. The circumstances of Owen's demise would become mired in legal action and familial strife. Martha sued the WWF for negligence, resulting in a multi-million-dollar settlement, though the pain of loss cannot truly be quantified. The night after Owen's death, WWF held a touching tribute show where wrestlers shared heartfelt memories and tears. But some criticized the company for exploiting the tragedy for ratings and publicity. Though ruled an accident, Owen Hart's tragic death sent shockwaves through both his family and the wrestling world. Some questioned whether safety had been sacrificed for spectacle. But above all, a beloved performer lost his life in front of a live audience in a horrifying fashion. The image of Hart's helpless freefall and limp body bent backwards over the ropes remains etched in the memories of all who witnessed it. Owen Hart's tragic accident stands as one of wrestling's darkest moments. The outpouring of grief from wrestlers and fans alike proved Owen's legacy transcended heel, face, Raw, or Nitro. Behind the flamboyant costumes and fictional feuds, at the core, Owen represented everything good about wrestling: passion, humor, generosity, skill. He cherished his wife and children above all else. He brought smiles through his humor and warmth. Though a consummate pro in the ring, Owen never took himself too seriously, staying humble and down to earth. In death, Owen became larger than life, an almost mythological figure representing wrestling's lost innocence. The circumstances of his passing opened mainstream eyes to the underbelly of risks and human fallibility beneath the bombast. His grieving peers had to reconcile dedicating their bodies and lives to crowd-pleasing spectacle with the sobering reality of mortality. To this day, Owen remains a symbol of lives cut short and talent unfulfilled. But rather than focus on hypotheticals, Martha Hart chose to cement Owen's legacy with purpose and meaning. In his name, she founded the Owen Hart Foundation, which provides housing assistance and scholarships to those in need. All Elite Wrestling recently announced a tournament bearing Owen's name, shining a spotlight on young talent carrying on his spirit. Through charity, Owen's values of generosity and community live on. For those who witnessed his stellar career, Owen Hart represents the purity of performance, unencumbered by cynical ratings chases and garish storylines. For his family, Owen lives on through his children, their memories indelibly marked by his warmth and humor. Though his life ended far too soon that fateful night in 1999, Owen Hart's legacy persists in the hearts of all who knew and loved him. Much like his chilling final descent, Owen will remain forever frozen in time, suspended permanently, as both the consummate performer and devoted family man.